In T-minus 3, 2, 1, we begin the fun. Touring our way through the NBA from that big apple to the place by the bay. Is your mind buckled in? Because it's time to begin. Sekou and his friends are doing it again. The Hang Time Podcast is the spot, so sit back, relax, because the show's about to drop.
Welcome into another edition of the Hang Time Podcast. I'm your host, Sekou Smith, here in Atlanta, sheltered in place. Stand at the house with the fam as we all live through the global pandemic that is the coronavirus. But that hasn't stopped us from reaching out to the folks in the basketball universe to stay in touch and to keep our fingers on the pulse of what's happening. And everybody shut down, like literally everybody. So I don't think that this is a situation where people are kind of coloring outside the lines. I've been shocked to see how everything has slowed to a halt. And that allows us to catch up with some people we might not normally be in touch with here on the podcast. And that's why this is a special edition of the Hang Time Podcast, because we're catching up with a Hall of Famer, one of the all-time greats. I swear she's on the Mount Rushmore of women's hoops. Sheryl Swoopes, champion, all-star, MVP, you name it. She did it all during her playing career. And now she's a board member for the National Basketball Retired Players Association, at the forefront of trying to help her peers get through this time. And she found a few moments in her busy schedule, which has been slowed like everyone else's, to join us here on the Hang Time Podcast. And I think you want to give it a listen, because it's an interesting perspective on what's going on. Joined by a Hall of Famer, an all-time great, put her face on the Mount Rushmore of women's basketball, Sheryl Swoopes. First time here on the Hang Time Podcast. Sheryl, I appreciate you taking some time. I know we're in a strange space, everybody, not just in the basketball world, but just in the world in general. What's this like for you, being a coach, being a former player, and watching the game that's been the lifeblood for so many of us come to a grinding halt like this?
Man, you just put a lot on me. What a welcome, huh? I don't. Every day when I wake up, and this is the God honest truth. Every day when I wake up now, not that I didn't do it before, but more so now, I'm very grateful, just to be able to wake up and see another day. But I will tell you, it's just so different. Like, life is just different, and it's not just because we don't have sports right now. It's just with everything that's going on. I don't think any of us, anyone, anywhere, ever thought in our lifetime that we would be going through something we're going through right now. And then you take away sports, right? You take away that entertainment, which is a form of entertainment for a lot of people to get away from the hustle and bustle of living.
Yeah.
And just to wake up every day and not know what the day is going to bring and what tomorrow is going to bring, and just not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
I probably feel like every single other person in this world that says, like, when will this end? When will this be over? And I'll tell you this, and then I'll let you ask the next question.
Sure.
The thing that probably I try not to live my life in fear, because fear is not of God. But the thing that is scary or uncertain to me is not knowing what normal life will look like after this.
Yeah, that's, to me, that's one of the strangest things. People keep saying, well, when we get back to this, or when we get back to whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. You remember this probably as well as anybody. Yeah, I remember what life was like flying before 9/11.
Yes.
And then I remember how drastically different it was afterwards.
Yeah.
And we just flipped and changed, and everybody moved on like it was no big deal. It was just the new normal.
Yeah. You adjusted to it, and I feel, I don't know how I feel on most days, but my son just graduated from college and signed with an agency the other day, and he's so excited about his future.
Right.
But the other day he said to me, he said, "But Mom," he said, "like, when am I going to be able to move on and play at the next level?" And I just said to him, honestly, I said, "Son," I said, "nobody knows that. I said, we can talk about it. The government can talk about it. Everyone can talk about it." I said, "But none of us know if or when this will be over. We just don't."
It's it's so weird. And let me stop before I go on. Obviously, you're on the board, director for the National Basketball Retired Players Association. And I know you guys have so many services and initiatives that are a part of the program for the retired players and what they're dealing with now. What's been the response and the reaction of the retired players who have reached out to you guys to ask, what do we do now? How does this, how do we go forward?
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because lots of times I think when people think of, the Retired Players Association, and even think of us going as a world, going through what we're going through, people's first thought is, well, financially, like what are we going to do financially? And rightfully so. I think we all feel that. But what I'm proud of in being on the NBRPA board is not just the services that we have and that they have to offer financially, but everything else from, mental health and just the services that we've been able to, and Scott Rochelle's doing a phenomenal job in, reaching out to former players and talking to former players and saying, whatever it is you guys need, we're here, call us, because mental health is real. And even before this pandemic, players were dealing with things and struggling with things and going through things and just not knowing who to talk to, where to turn to. Well, through the NBRPA, those services are there. And I think it's important that players know that, because a lot of them may not be aware of that. I read my Bible every day. I pray every day. And I feel like I'm in a good space when it comes to my mental health. Mm-hmm. But even, there are times when I'm just like, God, like I just need to talk to somebody and, somebody to help me understand what I'm feeling in this moment. And I do feel like that's one of the most important things that we need to be aware of right now is people's mental health and the things that they're dealing with and struggling with right now, besides the financial aspect of what's going on.
Yeah. You mentioned something so important when you talked about your son, and how this affects young people. People graduating high school or college, and you remember the anxiety you feel at that age, wondering what your life holds. And I'm mortified for these high school seniors who have lost out on prom, graduation, and all these milestones that everybody normally gets to experience. What's that conversation like? How do you talk to the student athletes you responsible for, or the young people that are looking to you for some wisdom?
What's crazy is that most of the time, seriously, I feel like I have an answer, right? Mm-hmm. Even if it ain't the right answer, I have an answer. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, my son, for example, he's 22 years old, and he's excited about the possibility of playing in the NBA or just going overseas playing in the G League. And for all of that to just be up in the air right now, right?
Yeah.
So he, it's just like, Mom, like, what do I do? So what I say to him, and this is maybe a little different because he is my child, and I'm very real with him. I tell him to continue to work out, right? As we all should, because that just, to me, it just is good for my mental.
Mm-hmm.
So he does that. He works out. He does stuff around the house, and he stays in shape because I still use the old saying, you got to stay ready when your numbers call. So make sure you're ready. So he does that. We spend a lot of time sitting down, having conversations about this could possibly become our new normal, and what does that look like? We do a lot of Bible study together, and I honestly say to him, and I know this isn't a church service or anything, but my conversation with my son that I have with him is everything that we're going through in this world is going through right now is in the Bible. So we talk about that and we share that. And I just say to him, I said, son, I feel like God is trying to get our attention. And I feel like God is tired of us just being mean and evil and treating people bad. And he's showing us none of you are in control. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what your status is. I don't care what color none of that matters. And I just feel like that's him getting our attention. And once he has our attention and we show him, okay, we get it, I said, then I think he'll say, all right, they get it, and things will move on. I said, but I really honestly can't tell you what that going back to normal will look like. I don't think any of us know.
Yeah.
Because I do think things will be different.
Yeah, it's just, and I think about, everybody's anticipating, well, how do you restart in this? And I wonder what that would be like for an athlete, because you're on such a rigid schedule as an athlete for so long.
Yeah, and here's maybe the scary thought or the crazy thing is, and I think LeBron said it, and a lot of other athletes have said it. When I played the game, one, because I loved it. I enjoyed it. I loved the competition of it. But I played for the fans. I loved entertaining the fans. I loved hearing them scream. I loved hearing them boo me. It didn't matter if I was playing, in front of my fans or in front of the other team's fans. I love that aspect of the game. And the thought of that changing, that to me will completely change what sports looks like. And then how does that affect the athlete? Because I do think that will affect, I honestly couldn't imagine playing in an arena, a stadium with no fans.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because even when this does pass, because I do believe this too shall pass, will it be a thing though where fans and people are like, I don't really want to be in a venue where there are a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many unknowns and so many questions.
Yeah, it really are. And the thing that burns me up as a guy who's covered sports for over 2 decades and been a part of this basketball ecosystem for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, you've been around too.
I know. I feel so old too thinking about it. But I just know how much we all had invested in a season. And for athletes, the people playing, I know it's even greater than it is for me, and the time away from my family and the schedule we keep. I'm thinking about the investment everybody made in the 2019-20 season, and the fact that there would even be a question as to whether or not you get to finish it or how you get to finish it is like devastating. I know where I'm at mid-April. I know my wife knows I got to pack my bag because I'm getting ready to be on the road until the end of June. And to have that interrupted or disrupted,
it's hard.
It's tough. Yeah, it's unsettling.
It's tough. It's hard. It's frustrating. It's disappointing. I don't even, there are moments where I'm like, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
But if I'm an athlete right now who is still playing, whether that's NBA and you know, you look at the WNBA right now, they don't even know if they'll have a season, you know? I mean, training camp's been postponed, which means the season's going to be postponed. And, you know, and that's people's livelihoods. When I look at the NBA, for the most part, most of those players financially should be good for a while, even without finishing the season.
Right.
But when I look at the WNBA, that's not the case with most of those players. You know, you may have a handful that financially are in a pretty good place and could be okay with not having a season this summer. But most of them, that's not the case. So, but if I'm an athlete right now, whether that's WNBA or NBA, as difficult as this moment, as difficult as this unprecedented time is, I try to find something positive out of it. Mm-hmm. And for me, what that would be taking the time that normally I wouldn't have, right? But taking that time that I do have now to figure out if and when this is taken away from me, what do I have?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it could very well be taken away from all of us. And I think it is a time and a moment for all of us to reflect on who we are as an individual and what do we mean to this world, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I was joking with somebody the other day. We've had more sit-down family meals in the last 3 weeks.
Right.
Than we have since my kids were in middle school. Like we didn't.
And you know what?
Sorry,
and that pisses me off. No, seriously, but the same thing for me. Like that pisses me off because it should not take something like this to happen for us to have those moments. And I get it, what you do, what the athletes do, even what I do. I travel a lot.
Yeah.
But when I am at home, am I really at home? And I was watching Tyrese the other day on Instagram. Mm-hmm. He said something, and I it was simple, but it was true. He said, "We're in our before this happened, right? Mm-hmm. We're in the presence of our kids and our significant other, but we're not really present, right? We're in their presence, but we're not present because so even though we're there, we're still thinking about, oh my God, I'm sure you do, like." Next week I got to go make this trip. Exactly. And you know, and so you start thinking you're still not with your loved ones. Yeah. And I think we're all guilty of that. So, you know what I've done with my son, my husband, because usually I'll cook, we'll sit down at the table, but we all have our phones.
Right.
And so since this happened, I said, listen, we are going to sit down. We're going to have a family meal and a family discussion without phones. Mm-hmm. That's the way it used to be back in the old days, you know?
Yeah.
Man. And it felt so good. Like it felt really good to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's such a rearrangement. I was on set with Sam Mitchell and Jerry Greenberg the night that the season came to a halt. We were walking in, we were in the back talking, and we were getting ready to go out on the set, and they were like, hey, they just held up the Utah-Oklahoma City game. And we were like, what?
But were you on set?
Yeah,
okay,
we were
in studio.
At NBA TV, getting ready to go on the air. And we were like, what? You know, and Sam was looking at me like, seriously? And, you know, it was so strange. And I think about the interruption, but think about the WNBA and all of the strides they've made here last few months, all of this getting ready to go into motion.
Yep.
And you know, and I wonder how you feel about that. I mean, you spent so much of your career defining what the WNBA would be for generations to come. And now, how does that make you feel now with the new CBA and all of the growth of the since you played in the league, and you have to be proud of it, obviously.
Of course.
But I mean,
But, I just had this conversation with someone else and said, there was so much. This season, in a way, reminded me of when the WNBA first started. All the hype and excitement going into it and building up to the first game. And that's where I felt, in a way, I kind of felt like the league had gotten away from just promoting it and building it up and keeping people excited about it. Mm-hmm. And I felt like this season we were back there because of the new CBA, which was such a historical moment for not just the WNBA, but women all over the world. Right. And so going into the season, new CBA, so many changes, tons of talent. Like, I felt like this summer was going to be that summer. Right. And now to sit here and think about the possibility of there not even being a season, I unfortunately, I think that could really hurt the WNBA. Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because there was a lot of excitement about it, right? You got new sponsors on board, picked up probably, I don't know, tons of new fans. And now with everything that's going on, businesses are going to take a financial hit, and sponsors that the WNBA had will probably take a hit. And are you going to lose fans? I don't know. And it crushes my heart to think that all of the women, not just the ones who are playing right now, but everyone that came before myself and the players who are playing now, the thought of them possibly not being able to enjoy this season and enjoy this moment and celebrate the history that they just made with this new CBA, that crushes me.
Yeah. It's and I'll say, we've it seems like we've kind of gotten on this really dark path, but I'm going to tell you one thing that has been a silver lining is I've gone back and looked at archives of things I've written that other people have written, watched games from years past. If you don't stop to take stock of what's going on, you will miss just how fantastic a ride it's been in the game of basketball, period.
I agree.
Men's, women's, the game.
Totally agree with that.
It's been an unbelievable stretch since the mid-'90s to now to see the game grow the way it has.
Yes. Well, usually to be able to do things like that, right? We always say we're too busy.
Yeah.
We're too busy to take the time to really reflect on what we've been through, what we've gone through, where we are, where we've come from. And now you can't say that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say, well, I'm too busy to do that.
Yeah, no. I've been watching NBA TV and watching these old games and saying to myself, man, what? We act like everything we see now is the first time we've ever seen it. I'm like, go back and watch these games.
Oh, man. It's been some good ones, right?
Yeah, I did the same
thing with some of the college games.
Right.
It just, man, I don't know. I agree with you. It's like we sit here and say, man, these are such dark times. And they are. They are. But at the same time, I think we should take the time to do exactly what you did, like reflect on just things that have happened prior to now. Go back 20 years ago and see all the amazing things that happened, all the great talent that was out there. And, and even for the younger players, NBA and WNBA, I'll say more so NBA because of the games that you guys are showing. But these youngsters need to sit down and watch some of these old games, and really appreciate their history.
Yeah.
That's what I told my son. I said, instead of being on that Xbox all day, go sit in front of the TV and watch some of these old games. Like, you can't even tell me who some of these players are. But yet you say you want to play in the NBA. You know?
Yeah. It does make you take stock. It really does. It allows you the time that we never have. In addition to the yard projects we've done and cleaning out closets and spring cleaning that I'm usually avoiding by being on the road.
Now you can't.
So, I am a captive, no question, to the household business that has gone on for years. And I know that's got to be the same for anybody that's away from home for their work. And so I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's just a lot you miss when you're constantly in the basketball environment that you get a chance to listen to and see and experience. Now that I hope we don't lose sight of that when we do come out of this. And
I agree with you. And
I think we're coming out of this in some form or fashion. Whatever our new normal is, I just hope that we all pause for a minute and say, you know what?
Yeah.
Let's not forget about when it was taken away and how important it was.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I hope that's not the case. I hope I do agree with you. I do believe we will come out of this. But I truly hope that we all take the time to say, man, and appreciate, even though it doesn't look good, but appreciate this time that we've had to slow down, just to slow down a bit.
Yeah. Well, look, I know it's getting to that time. It's probably almost dinner time at your house.
I got some good leftovers. No, my husband threw some steaks and chicken on the grill last night. Now I just got to go throw baked potatoes in the oven, and it is.
Nothing like dinner time, in a global pandemic. You get a chance to connect in ways you didn't before. Sheryl Swoopes, I appreciate your time and your wisdom.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see how we come out on this other side. Hopefully we'll see you somewhere in an arena, somewhere with people.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our conversation with Sheryl Swoopes, who we can't thank enough for taking the time to join us here on the Hang Time Podcast. We're going to continue grinding away and reaching out to folks in the basketball universe to come on and talk to us about whatever they got going on right now, whatever they're going through, whatever charitable efforts they have going on, how they're coping throughout this global pandemic. It's, I think now is as important a time as ever to make sure we can continue to maintain those lines of communications here on the Hang Time Podcast. So we appreciate you. We'll be coming to you as often as we can to keep you engaged. And for my producer, Anthony Bonaparte, and our entire Hang Time Podcast family, we'll see you right here next time on the Hang Time Podcast.
This one is done, but in case you want another one, here's the links to all the fun from Sekou Smith's Hang Time Run. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, NBA.com/hangtime, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, Hoops fans.
Thank you.